I'm just curious about how do you just avoid it? Do you just say,
No.
hey, do you just
This is great. This topic is great. I feel like there's so many junk removal business owners that are going to go, oh my gosh.
All right, Andrew Thompson, we appreciate you jumping on this podcast, man. I've personally been following at least on YouTube, your page for a while, Ted. I know you've been at it as well for a good bit, and I just love what you're doing online. I love the fact that you're online as a junk removal company and brand. The fact that you put a lot of emphasis on that, but also just your approach to digital marketing, kind of your style. It's very unique, in my opinion. And obviously that I think has flowed into your junk removal company and how you approach that as well. So thank you for joining. But for the audience, Andrew out in LA started a junk removal company and has now grown it, been very successful, has done a lot of online coaching for others trying to get into the industry. So at a very surface level, that's kind of an intro from my side. But Andrew, if you want to give the audience a little more than that, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Ted and Davis. Yeah, so I've been in junk removal for a couple years now, and it's kind of should I give a little bit of the backstory too?
Yeah, please do.
Please.
So yeah, I fell into junk removal because my background is software. I've been a software engineer my entire life. My last app failed. I raised a little over $150,000 right before COVID, and it was for a travel app to travel with friends across the world. Can you imagine that during COVID? Blew through that money because I just burned through it. And I was like, COVID's got to end someday. It's got to event. And it's like 3 months go by, 6 months go by, a year goes by. And it's my investors like, dude. And I'm like, I don't have the answer. So it got to the point where I was like, I need to make money now, right now, because the COVID free rental program in California was ending. So you had to start paying rent. All the COVID benefits of like that extra money. I milked as much as I could while I was trying to get my app working. And one of my friends is like, dude, you can make $1,000 a day with junk removal. I'm like, I was like, dude, you're full of shit. I was like, I was kind of a different person back then too, where I would say junk removal definitely humbled me a lot in terms of I was going to be this tech billionaire. I was a software engineer. I've never made less than $250,000. My first company, I made $2 million when I was 17 years old, dropped out of high school. That's a story in itself. I made the first ever MySpace profile editor, and then I hit rock bottom, just tanked. And I just didn't believe them. So I started YouTubing. I was like, holy shit, Sonoma Strong, $1,000 a day, lug away, $1,000 a day, all these people saying $1,000 a day. And I was willing to do anything at that point. And I'm not going to lie, I was somewhat embarrassed and ashamed. And I say I'm proud as hell now that I was able to get my hands dirty and do something, my first ever blue collar work. I'm like immensely proud of myself that I was willing to do that, because it got me out of my comfort zone. I may look cool and tatted and all that stuff, but inside, I'm just kidding. Inside, man, I've been a programmer my entire life. I've never touched manual labor. I don't even know how to shovel, right? Like I just been a nerd my entire life. And then my background in tech and my background in ads and just my background in just understanding my way around the internet and software and marketing and just knowing how to build a brand and just, translating that into the home services industry. I started making $1,000 a day within the first 90 days.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So that's kind of like the backstory of how I ended up in junk removal. And yeah.
So Andrew, I'm curious. When you say you were a software engineer, have you always been like freelance, or have you ever landed at a company W-2, did that for a while? Talk to us a little bit about that history.
So never. Okay, I guess I technically had one job when I was 16. I was forced to work at a computer store as a cashier. I quit a month later. And then I moved out when I was 17. My mom let me rent her apartment because she met this new guy. So as soon as I turned 18, I ended up getting my own apartment, but I still paid rent as a 17-year-old. I dropped out of high school and then got my own apartment. And then from the end of age of 17 to 19 years old, I made $2.5 million from my MySpace profile editor back when MySpace was big. This is 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've never had a job since. So after that 2.5 million, I did more startups. I did another startup. So I've just been doing startup after startup after startup. Two of them hit and each of them made me $2 to $3 million. So I made $6 million from the two, first the MySpace profile editor. And then the second thing I got into, which is crazy, we can talk about this another episode or whatever, but that was Bitcoin before Bitcoin was big. This is back in 2010, 2011. Made 3 million from that, and then I raised 3 million. Well, sorry, 1.8 million, almost 2 million for my fitness app that I did with Summer Rae. That didn't go well, and then after that, the travel app that didn't go well. Here I am with junk removal. So my entire life has been an up and down roller coasters of startups, successful, make money, blow it. And then because I was young, I've never had a father, haven't met my father like once in my life. So when I made all that money young, I just kind of just blew through it, right? The first 17, 18 years old, just 7 cars, houses. And yeah, but to answer your question, technically, yes, I've had one job for 1 month at Micro Center when I was 16, but I've been on my own ever since. Only ever had one freelance. I've only ever had to pick up one freelance programming job. And that was when my fitness app failed. My fitness app failed, and my transition to the travel app before I got an investor for the travel app, there was a 6-month period where I picked up a freelancing gig programming. And then that was when I was like, yep, never programming for anybody else ever again, unless it's my software. So yeah.
So on that note, Andrew, how would you say your background in software development has translated into the junk removal business?
I think it's just, besides the ability to it definitely helps that I was able to set up Google Ads myself and understand it. It definitely helped in being able to build my own website and have a great website and set up all that stuff immediately. It definitely helped linking everything together, setting up all the social profiles, making sure everything came together, being able to set up House Call Pro right on the fly with review text going out immediately. All this is it sounds simple to me, but I know a lot of people probably kind of overthink all this stuff in the beginning. So the fact that I started with the CRM right away definitely helped my reviews from the get-go, because you just sometimes you forget to send the link, or you send the link too late. But if you're using a CRM, it's like the review link goes out within seconds. So I think the fact that I was able to set up the initial everything in the beginning, from the website to the Google Maps listing to getting verified to running my own Google Ads campaign to setting up the CRM, it's nothing as nearly as complicated as programming, but I think my confidence and my ability to set all that up pretty fast and kind of start making moves quickly and start getting reviews instantaneously. And I think my ability to respond on Thumbtack and Yelp and live and die by my phone, being able to respond to people immediately and just knowing how to set up all the settings. I think all that stuff is what helped me. But, it's not that hard of stuff, but I guess I would say that's how it translated the most, is that the initial setup process really helped me get going. But I'd say the thing that really helped me the most was me being able to really dial in on Google Ads and understand. And then when I eventually did hire a different company that runs my Google Ads, I was living in the Google Ads system and making tweaks and working with them to make sure that my campaigns work, rather than just kind of sitting and just hoping and praying. I was very actively involved, monitoring my campaigns, making sure they're doing tracking, because ClickSgeeks knows what they're doing. But I was heavily invested for 3 months. If you talk to the CEO of ClickSgeek, Ed, he hated me the first 90 days. We hated each other, absolutely hated each other, because I was so to answer your question, I hope that answers the question. I think I was just able to kind of really dial in everything, and just know what needs to be done.
When you kind of talked about your background, Andrew, you mentioned building a business and then it failing, building a business failing, building a business succeeding, whatever. I'm curious, just generally, when you say fail, what do you mean by fail? Like you ran out of capital, couldn't go on?
Yeah, so the MySpace thing, that was inevitable, right? So that kind of just MySpace tanked. The second one was me just kind of wanting to get out of that business. So it didn't necessarily fail. I didn't want to be into the crypto world anymore. I was in crypto in 2010, 11 before it was the hot thing. And that's a crazy story in itself. But I kind of blew the money not smart. And when I was 25 years old, I moved to LA for the second time, moved back to Colorado for a year when I was 19, then moved back to LA like a year later. And then when I was in LA and made that next 2.5 million, I got caught up in the wrong scene in Hollywood and kind of just started like going to the club, just stupid stuff. So
Mm.
kind of lost myself there and blew through that money, and that's how that crumbled. And then the third one, the fitness app just had a higher churn than and then the Summer Rae, the girl that we paid to do all the marketing and promoting her booty program, it didn't give us as many customers as we wanted. The product just had a low turn. We were spending too much money on employees. So that was just a natural state of learning about startups and building companies. So that one just inevitably failed. The travel app during COVID, I kind of just had to pull the plug on that one. Do I still believe in the idea? Absolutely. But I'm more passionate about the home services stuff now.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of been an ebb and a flow.
Yeah. Do you have an affinity to build, sell, and get out and go on to the next thing, or do you have a vision for the future of building and holding and growing something that you've made your baby for a couple of years, or do you like to build, sell, and move on to the next thing?
That's a really good question. That is something. It's like with Gypsy, my travel app, what it was going to be called Gypsy, Gypsee, like see the world,
Mm-hmm.
Gypsy.
Yep.
It's actually still up, Gypsy.travel. But anyways, um, I was I was like, I'm going to build this forever, even if it turns into a unicorn, $1 billion company, and somebody wants to buy me out. I think this is going to be my lifelong thing. But I've started to realize I might be part serial entrepreneur. Serial meaning, building, multiple, selling, kind of just like the process of building and selling or just being in business in general. Because I always thought I was a tech guy. I always thought I would just build software forever, which I might, but then I loved building the process of the junk removal business. The only reason
Yeah.
I can't scale the junk removal business is my credit. I can't get any more dump trucks, and I'm not going to buy a used dump truck. So I'm kind of just stuck right now with where I'm at, and it's really frustrating. But I
Mm-hmm.
loved the process of learning how to build a home services business. And now my passion for software, I want to get back into software and kind of fix some things that I see wrong in the industry. But that's a really good question, because the current project that I'm building, I might want to build to sell, but I definitely doesn't take away from the passion that and drive that I have to want to build a product for the customer, because I do care about building product for the customer. But I
Yeah.
do like the idea of, oh, you sell for $1 billion. I mean, isn't that everybody's dream? And then I have 20% of $1 billion. Thank you. I'll take 200 million, of course. Um, but yeah, I feel like I'm kind of both. It
Yeah.
really depends. I might want to go all the way for 10, 20, 30 years. Who knows? I
Yeah.
might want to sell, cash out, and do something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think
You
there's a
know,
right or wrong, right? I think it's just,
yeah,
I like to ask the question and then see what folks' responses are. And then if somebody ever asks me, I'm like, I don't know. I have a desire to build something and exit just to see what that number might be, but you never know 5, 10 years from now how you're feeling, what your life circumstances are. So you may have all the
yep,
reason in the world to keep it, but just a note
yep.
there. Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, I mean, I have a question here, but I'm going to actually come back to it because you just said something, and so I'm gonna go in left field. When you said the dump trucks, you want to get more, and that's kind of a cap. So that's been an interesting evolution for us. We're coming up on year 6, and about I think 2.5 years ago, Davis, keep me honest, we decided to buy large box trucks, a 16 and a 20-foot box truck, and it has absolutely been a game changer. So let me just give you some context here. The
Really?
20-foot box truck has a lift gate on it, and it holds 3 times the volume of a 15-yard dump truck. So yes, you're having to manually unload it. However, we still have 2 dump trucks. So if there's any kind of construction debris, if there's brush, we use our dump trucks for those. But the vast majority of our jobs are going to be household. So when we use these
That's
box
true.
trucks, our guys empty it in the morning. Yes, it's manual, but it's household stuff, so it's easy. But they empty it one time, first thing in the morning, and they don't have to empty again the rest of the day. That allocates an extra 3 hours a day that they're not having to go back and forth to the dump. So that
That
has
is
literally
true.
been a game changer. And when you think about I see so many junk removal companies on here that are like, yeah, we've got 4 dump trucks, we've got 5 dump trucks. And we're like, well, man, 2 box trucks is the equivalent of 5 dump trucks. And it's way more efficient and it's a huge billboard. So I just was curious, have you ever considered that for your business?
So that's okay. 100% that makes sense. But I do have one question.
Yeah.
Riddle me this, because this is the most difficult thing that I would struggle with on the phones is customers don't know, oh, your truck's 14, this one's 20. Oh, you say it's double the size of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. When you get those customers that ask for the price of your full load, because the industry standard is just standard dump truck, 12 foot, 10 foot, 14 foot, and let's call it $600 a full load wherever you're at, that's the standard. So then when you're 3 times the size, you can't charge no 600. You got to charge 1,500 to 1,800. So how the hell do you convince the customer when they ask their full load price and you try to, Sally, no, I promise you it's bigger. I promise you. That is the thing that I'm just curious about. How do you just avoid it? Do you just say, hey, do you just
this is great. This topic is great. I feel like there's so many junk removal business owners that are going to go, oh my gosh, here's how it is. What we say is if someone calls, everything is price based in increments of 50 cubic square feet. Why? Because we literally say this because it's the easiest to visualize for you as the customer. So imagine a standard pickup truck bed. If you've got an F-150 in your driveway, if everything is within that pickup truck bed, that's roughly 50 cubic square feet. So we charge $95 for the first 50 cubic square feet. If it's double that, it's $150. That's like 2 pickup truck. If it's double that again, it's $300. That's like 4 and on and on and on. Once I get to that point, Andrew, I stop and go, does that make sense? Oh yeah, that makes total sense. So in other words, the price scales based on the volume, regardless of what truck we show up with. You only pay for the amount of stuff that fits in our truck. And they go, got it. Right. So at that point, the truck is irrelevant.
Okay, so you use that technique right there to avoid what's your full load price going to be? It's like they understand the metric right there.
That's exactly
the unit of measurement.
We're going to give you a price range over the phone. A lot of the big boys, as you know, don't want to do that because they want to get on site and do the sales pitch, which we get it. We hate that model. We'd rather at least give you a price range over the phone, number one, because we don't want to waste your time or hours or the gas. We'd rather give you a price range because if you're going to say no, I'd rather you say no quickly before we drive an hour each way. So we're going to give you a wide range. It could be as low as $250. It could be up to $500. It all depends. Once we get on site and see it with our own 2 eyes, we can firm up that price before we touch anything. If you like the price, we'll take it. If not, we'll be on our way. 95% of the times we get the job.
So you do a pricing over the phone.
Price range over the phone.
Yeah,
yes.
That's unheard of. Yeah. I might have to try that for 2 weeks.
Try it.
Because I will. I mean, we sell almost every job in person, but we do get a lot of people, and it's LA too, man. I blame LA. We get a lot of people who book and a lot of people who cancel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard the LA flake theory, but when you move to LA, you become a flake. That's just what it is in LA. And it's true. I become a flakier person because of LA. The last thing I want to do is jump on the 405 to go all the way from one city to another city. It's crazy, but that's very interesting. I might have to give that a shot. And I might have to look into the box trucks because honestly, box trucks are easier to get than dump trucks.
Way easier.
Yeah.
And I would argue easier to maintain, Andrew, because you're not having to go to landfills to empty them. When we were using our dump trucks exclusively, we were constantly messing up tires. We were running over metal and ruining the trucks. We never have that issue anymore because, again, 95% of our jobs are household. It's not demolition. It's not brush. So when we need to use the dump truck, we can, no issues. But a box truck can get into places that a dump truck can in terms of getting rid of that stuff. So it's much easier.
I might have to try that out.
Like I think you should, man. I'm telling you, it's been a game changer for us. Let me tell you one more thing, Davis, and it's your turn. I promise. I'll stop monopolizing. The other thing that makes them so amazing is we use these big, heavy-duty dollies that have those huge tires. So every once in a while, we get so slammed that we have all of our crews running, but we need to go do another job. So one guy with the big, oversized dolly with a lift gate in that dump or in that box truck can do just about any job. as long as they're not going up and down stairs. I don't care if it's piano. We've got guys that if you ratchet strap it, it's accessible in the garage. You literally back up to it, roll it onto that lift gate, lift it up, slide it in place, ratchet strap, you're on your way. I'm telling you, it is a force multiplier, douchey buzzword, but it is a force multiplier in this business, truly, because one guy can do the work of two. You're not having to lift stuff up inside of a dump truck for one thing, so your guys don't hurt as much.
And I feel like I feel like when I was browsing trucks, you definitely see more trucks, box trucks with lift gates already installed too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's easier to probably find a box truck with the lift gate. You'll never see a dump truck with one. I mean, you can do it. Sonoma Strong did it. It's cool, but you gotta get a nice new dump truck and then add a lift gate.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, Andrew, to touch on like how you talk to a customer over the phone about pricing when you've got a very large box truck and they've called 5 other places that just price it on a dump truck model. I just stick with what's simple. And Ted, you've obviously got your ways. My way is, our dump trucks are the exact same size because they are, right? We have dump trucks. So if you want to know what my full load price is, it's $595 for a dump truck. Now, if we get this job and we show up in a box truck that's much larger and we're like, oh, this is double the the price, it's closer to $1,200, and they're like, what? I thought full load was $595. Well, then you can whip out your sheet that says this is a dump truck. Here's the size of a dump truck, $595. Here's our box truck, which is what I've arrived in. This is double the size of that. That's why it's that price. And so, for me, I just kind of steer clear of that whole conversation of box truck versus dump truck and just say, our pricing is $595 for a full load dump truck. If you go to 1-800-GOT-JUNK in our area, it's going to be at least 20% more expensive for that same size truck.
Yeah, interesting. I might have to try that.
The other piece. Sorry, the other piece of that, Andrew, when you talk about pricing over the phone, to Ted's point, absolutely, right? We want to give our clients something so that we're not wasting our time. Like much like what you experienced with online bookings and then folks canceling those. A lot of people calling in have no clue how junk removal pricing works. And for us, we want to weed out those bad customers, and no offense to them, just bad customers. Like, you're never going to purchase, right? You're not going to buy this service once you figure it out. We do not want to waste it. Besides the gas and the wear and tear on the truck and sending a team out there, it's the time, right? We literally lost a 2 to 4 slot because we thought you would be a paying customer, but you're not. So we want to at least give you an idea of our price range prior to going out. But the caveat there is the customer actually really likes that, because every other place they call, they're not getting that. They're getting, we got to get on site. True. You got to send photos. And even when they send photos, you may not get a price. And so they just like the transparency.
One follow-up question. You've got to be wrong sometimes. Some customers. So what do you do in that scenario when you committed to a range and then it's just a drastically different scenario than you expected?
We've run into that a few times, but it's not been much. But the few times is always a internal battle with us and our guys, because our guys are the ones that are face to face with the client, having to deal with it on site. Luckily, that's where our training of our guys come into play, and being able to talk through an unhappy customer. And so I recently, probably 2 or 3 months ago, I booked a job, and from the photos, it looked like it was like $300 to $400. Ted, I don't know if you remember this, but we got on site and the guys were like, "This is like $1,500," and I'm like, I have no clue. Like, I still go back to the photos and I'm like, that looks like $300 to $400, but of course, stuff underneath, or they didn't include, whatever the case may be.
The depth, the perception.
That's right.
You trust your guys on site to kind of talk through, and we're the first ones to raise our hand and be like, look, we've charged you nothing so far. We're here. We're going to try to work with you, but we can't do it at this price. We can do it at this price. And by the way, that's discounted, and we want to get it done for you. But we can't take it for anything less than this. And it's, by the way, this is no dirty salesman. We're not pushing anything on you. If you want to send us on our way out, no charge, feel free. Go shop around, figure out if you can find a better way. That's how we handle it. And most folks respect that, even though, they may be a little bit upset once you get on site. And it's such a drastic difference.
I might try 1 week of pricing, because, my phone operators kind of know how it works, right? They know the size of the truck. They've been doing my phones for the last year. So I might have them try to be like, hey, I can give you kind of an estimate, we still need, I'm assuming you guys say we still need to see it just to be sure though. Like, but
I was just going to say, Andrew, the last thing that we need to kind of put a fine point on is, we always stress this. Listen, This is just a rough estimate, and that's why we're giving you a wide price range, because until we get on
Okay.
site and our guys can physically see it, this is just an estimate. So the price could be more, it could be less, but at this
Yeah.
stage, it's a
Okay.
pre-estimate. And if we get on site and the price is out of your budget, we'll be on our way. There's never a sales pitch. And I would say we close that well over 90% of the time.
I might try 1 week of giving estimates over the phone and see how the responses are and the bookings are. And yeah. So and also thanks for the box truck thing. I might look into that.
I would, man,
That might,
honestly.
yeah. It's just I got so happy with the uh not having to unload anymore. You get excited, right? But you do make
Yeah.
a valid point. If you get the Big Daddy,
Yep.
you might only need to dump once.
Mhm.
And if you have to dump, that's a good sign, right? That if you have to
If you
dump
need
that,
to dump a 20-foot box truck in the middle of the day, that is a good day that
that's
you're having.
that's a good day. Take your dump truck then and be happy that you filled that bad boy up and go get the. But yeah, you got a good point, man. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
A lot of it is context too, Andrew, right? So you've got to take into account where you live, what your what your landfills allow, what your transfer stations allow. And the biggest piece is what your field team cares about. Because Ted and I didn't go buy a box truck without running this by our team. Like, hey guys, would this completely throw your day off? And would you guys hate this if we had a box truck and you had to manually unload? And we got candid feedback from them, and they obviously had some experience in it because with our dump trucks in the early days, if something went out and we needed to go rent a U-Haul box truck for the day, they had experience with that. And so that feedback, between our guys and Ted and I made that purchase of a box truck, the first box truck, worthwhile. And then once we got that into rotation, the guys started loving it. I mean, we barely drive our dump trucks, to Ted's point, unless it's a construction job or, for some reason we need to be able to lift it up. So, it's been good in that sense.
Did you buy a used dump truck or brand new? A box truck?
No.
New? Cool.
Yeah.
How do you mind me? What's a new 20-foot box truck cost with the lift gate?
You could get a 20-foot box truck with a lift gate for under 70. So you're still, I mean, when you look at the brand new NPRs, the top of the line, especially if you go and have it customized, you're pushing close to 100 these days, 80 to 100. So to us, it was a no-brainer.
Right. So 60 to 70, and then dump trucks are usually like 80 to 100 depending.
Yeah.
So not, a little bit cheaper, but not drastically cheaper.
Yeah, not drastically, but if I can save 20 grand, 30, 40, that's a good savings.
Yeah.
I might look into like, I don't want to do used trucks. It's called, but
that warranty is
yeah. The problem is getting a brand new commercial vehicle, 60, 70K with my credit is even if I put 20, 30 grand down, I try to put 20, 30 grand down on a new dump truck and I still couldn't get it.
Wow.
Yeah, my credit, let's just say I fucked it up over the years. I hired a credit repair company for $5,000. I'm still waiting on results. So frustrating, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I might check out the box trucks for sure.
Well, here's the original question I had for you. And that was, I've watched, I would say, most of your content. And as Davis said, we love what you're doing. The thing that kept coming up for me is delegation. Like to me, you seem like a master delegator. Could you talk a little bit about that? I think that's one of the biggest traps that most, I wouldn't even say junk removal business owners, just business owners get into, is they try to wear every hat. And I think what you have discovered, and you've been so good about passing that along, is you need to delegate that stuff out so that you can be more strategic in how you grow your business. So how have you done that? Was that something that came natural? Did you discover that through owning this business?
Yeah, I think that's been something I've developed over the years of just my life of being in business and being very overly trusting. I know tons of people, like this is probably one of the biggest things. After you start profiting, you got to profit first, right? You figure that out, figure out how to get leads, make some money, right? Make sure you're making money, make sure you're getting a ROAS, a return on your ad spend or whatever, return on your investment of your Google ad spend. Make sure you're profiting, figure that out first. But the next biggest thing that I think holds people back is they do not want to delegate because they want to be in control, right? And that's the biggest thing. And I'm going to make a great example. I'm really good friends with the guy and I talk to him weekly. but let's just he's an animated character, Ricardo from Junk Guys DFW.
Hmm.
He has videos that are constantly like, don't hire employees. They're just going to fuck up your trucks. Don't let anybody else drive your truck. Never let anybody do anything because they're going to just damage it and not care for it like you care for it. And that is the mindset that I think a lot of people, including somebody I was helping in Colorado start the junk removal business, actually one of my friends, because he needed to make some money. He has like a brand new F-250. And he's like, I was like, yo, you're making 40, 50 grand a month. Get an employee. He's like, dude, I can't let anybody drive. This is my baby. This is my F-250. I'm like, dude, you want to scale. And he's like, but people don't know how to drive trailers. And I was like, dude, the first person now this might be stupid, but the first person I hired, he was a great employee, hard worker, never knew how to drive a trailer in his life. I had to learn on the fly too. Immediately I had to learn. It was the scariest shit ever. I went and bought the trailer. I almost fucking jackknifed the thing 1,000 times. But I had to learn how to do it on the fly. One day I was just like, okay, man, I don't want to get on the truck anymore. I threw him the keys. I said, don't wreck it. Go watch a couple YouTube videos. I sent him 2 YouTube video links. He's never driven a trailer in his life. So is that a little bit extreme? Yes. But what I'm getting to is delegation is insanely important. And the first thing comes to is you got to have trust. You got to start trusting people. That's just the facts. Like, do your best to hire slow, fire fast. That saying is very true. Hire slow, do your due diligence a little bit. But if they fuck up and it's a bad fuck up, if it's an honest fuck up, they're late. If it's something honest, but if it's something bad, like they have a really bad personality or they snap at you or they do something that's just uncalled for, I can them immediately. Fired on the spot. I've done that at least 10 times now. If it's an innocent mistake, no big deal. But delegating and getting off the truck was probably that was the easiest thing for me because I don't care about material shit. I have insurance. It's going to suck. I'm going to have to like put it in the shop, but that was the easiest thing for me to delegate because I just don't care. When I used to have a Bentley back in the day, when I had that money, I went and bought a Bentley, I bought a Range Rover, all that stupid shit. Eventually, I do want a Rolls Royce eventually. I still love cars. Don't get me wrong. One day I will get a nice car again. But I would just let my friends drive my Bentley. And I definitely paid the price for it. They fucked it up. I let my friend, I was going to Bali for a month. I let my friend, who was a club promoter, borrow the keys to the Bentley for a month, came back, suspension was destroyed. But anyways, getting off the truck was the easiest thing to do for me. It was when I got off the phones, that was the thing that took some master of delegation, I'd say, that I really dove into, because getting off the phones is the next hardest thing. And I would argue the phones is worse than the truck. If you're getting enough volume of phone calls to keep your business running full time, your phone should theoretically be going off quite a bit. And running dispatch and phone sales, talking to the employees and communicating and dealing with the customers, and then also the incoming phone sales, I would argue is the most. I became a slave to my phone. On the field, it's like I was also taking phones, but if I didn't have phones and the phone wasn't ringing and I was just doing jobs, because there was days like that, it was kind of peaceful, right? Like you do the work, you get some exercise. But to answer your question, man, I think getting off the truck and then getting off the phones and then finally getting an operations manager, delegating was probably the important thing in terms of scaling. And so hopefully that answers your question. I don't remember the original question. I think it was just something about delegation.
It was, yeah. That's the thing, honestly, Andrew, that Ted and I have struggled with the most. To your point, not anything about our vehicles. We obviously want our guy. We background check and vet and make sure our guys aren't just completely reckless on the road. But like, it is what it is. It is giving up the control of the phones. And you know what I think it is we all value the business owner. Nobody cares about their business more than the business owner. And it's irresponsible to think that any employee you bring in is going to care as much as you do.
Agreed.
And that's the thing about giving up the phones is every phone call that comes in is a potential revenue generating client. And so if somebody doesn't follow the process, you always are going to have an opinion on how you could have handled that call better to maybe get the appointment or whatever. That's the toughest thing because it represents money, right? And that's what, gets just like, a truck represents money too if somebody wrecks it, but to your point, you've got insurance and things happen. It's a sale that
Yeah.
you're missing on a phone call, you know?
That is the most difficult part to finally let go of and understand with phones. But here's what you have to realize is you're absolutely right. Nobody will ever, okay, there's always exceptions to the rule. You might get some sales god, right? Who's just incredible at sales. But the fact of the matter is it's your business. So you can make on the call, on the fly decisions with the person you're on the phone with. You'd be like, oh, don't worry, Susie. I'll give you 10% off. So you can make decisions on the fly while phone operators can't. I close probably 50 to 60 of my calls, but when you, especially when you get somebody from the Philippines versus somebody from America, I went from 50 to 60 to 40 to 45%, which is still good, but that is a cold, hard fact. When you scale and you delegate, especially overseas, you will lose business, period,
Totally.
point blank. So how you offset the loss of phone sales, which it still kind of hurts me sometimes, even to this day. I'm pretty sure you've heard my videos. They're great. Like they do good. They're very good. I'm sure you heard they're for the Philippines, no accent. You could find great people, but there's still calls where I'm like, shit, I could have closed. Or I'll have Chad, my ops manager, call back and he saves the call.
Yeah.
But that's just the name of the game. So how you offset, the only way to offset phone sales is scale. You need to scale to offset the loss of sales. So if you're a one truck operation, it probably doesn't make sense. Even I'm running 2 trucks full time. It works out. I'm in LA, I average like $3,000 a day. It makes sense. 2 trucks I would say is the bare fucking minimum before you like offload the phones to somebody else. Just since I'm in LA and I charge high prices and I really worked hard on finding good people from the Philippines, it makes sense. But in order to I would not offload phones until you hit 2 trucks running full time to where it makes sense, where you can expect a loss of 10%, 15%. Like I said, 40 to 45% is what we close. I track our phone calls. I was probably closing 50 to 60% of the jobs. So that is the hardest thing to delegate. But I strongly advise I was so scared to hire from the Philippines, right? But I was like, dude, it does not I cannot afford to keep paying this phone operator $4,000 a month for only 40 hours. My phones are on from 6 to 10, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. because of dispatch. In order to properly run dispatch, the phones, I have to be awake at 6 a.m. and I have to be awake as late as 9 p.m. to handle dispatch because sometimes my crews are going from 6 a.m. and then the next crew comes in from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I was like, I need to figure this out. I was like, how do you scale this business where I don't have to live and breathe and die by the fucking phone? I was like, there has to be a way because I can't. How do I run my phones from 6 to 10? How do I scale this business? So I was determined to figure out how to make it scalable. So I was like, the only way, JRA's call center is doing it. They're hiring from, I don't know which country, but their call center, they also hire. And every company in the world does it. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. Yeah. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to teach them how to run dispatch, teach them how to do phone sales, teach them how to do administrative tasks. And now I have two agents who run the entirety of my back end, dispatch and phone sales and admin, and that cost me $1,600 a month.
Wow.
To run, and I don't do shit. So it was a very scary delegation step for sure. But I was determined to find the best call agent I can from the Philippines. I got 400 applicants. I interviewed 30 and ended up finding 2 and just trained the shit out of them. I trained them myself.
What's your outlook on the junk removal industry in general, Andrew? Like next 3 to 5 years, where's it going? Where are you guys going? What do you think is going to be challenges that we'll all face? Opportunities?
So junk removal. Ooh, did you guys see my my $1 million PowerPoint presentation on YouTube?
No.
I did it's called The Truth About Junk Removal. It's an hour presentation I did on my channel maybe a couple months ago. Probably one of my favorite videos I've done on how the landscape is changing and how I think some people are just naive in the Facebook groups about how it's not changing and how it is getting competitive. Because I see a lot of people say, that junk removal is when all these people talking shit on YouTubers like me, you're saturating the industry, and then there's people who are defending it, saying, "Dude, if you can't just get your business going, that's your own fault." Restaurants. There's 100,000 restaurants in the same bubble. Yeah, people need to eat 5 fucking times a day. Junk removal is a once a year thing. You cannot compare it to restaurants. You cannot compare it to gas stations. You can't compare it to cleaning businesses. Cleaning, I can get my house cleaned every week, every day. This is a once a year on average, maybe twice. And then if we're not going to talk about the exceptions of some customers like who use you multiple times or commercial contracts. It's a once a year business. So it's a completely different business model than cleaning. You can't compare the two. So it's getting saturated. That's the truth. And the truth is it's getting saturated from people, gurus like me, like Sonoma, like Kyle Landwehr, like all of the YouTubers who are amassing I think Sonoma Ricardo's at 18,000 followers. Sonoma Strong is at 25. I mean, if you look at the YouTube economics or the size of all the Facebook groups, I've added them up. There's like 100,000 members between all the Facebook groups. There's like 100,000 subscribers between all the big dogs, Steezy, all of them. By the way, love you guys. I love all you guys. I talk to all of you, but this is the cold hard truth. Because people like me are saturating an industry that is not a constant reoccurring need like cleaning or food. So it's making Google advertising prices more expensive. The cost per click is going to go up. But here's what I think. All this people like me, people like Kyle Landwehr, people like everybody saying, make money, make money. They're flooding into the industry. It's getting expensive. And eventually people are going to get priced out just like any business. And they're not going to see that it's sustainable because they're going to try to advertise on Google. Their money's going to get, and I feel like it will plateau and kind of return back to some normal state within the next couple of years. But I think over the next couple of years is going to be a little difficult in terms of, you know, all the competition coming in and spending money on Google ads, driving the cost per click up, the cost per conversion. So that's my theory. It is getting competitive. There is a lot of people out there who want to do this. But yeah, so we'll see.
You're not the only one, Andrew, that shares that opinion. I've heard that a lot from other reputable sources in the industry. And I think what I could say on it is I think it's those that, and I don't even want to say it's marketing. That's a piece of it, right? But just having a business acumen to be able to ride this wave for the next couple of years, to your point, to see kind of those bottom feeders maybe get out of the, come in and then get out and
Yep.
get a little bit of that competition out of there. It's going to take folks that kind of know how to run a business to
Yep.
wade the waters and get through it. And that's not to say, oh, we're going to go from doing 100 grand a month in revenue down to 10 and we'll be fine, right? But you're going to have some ebb and flow, just like naturally you get with junk removal. But if you have business sense about you, how to manage finances, how to drag out payment terms with vendors, how to strategically set up contracts for commercial accounts, of course, but like how to get better at acquiring or reducing your dump fees, or maybe strategically pricing jobs, turning away jobs that you would maybe take on because it's too costly to do it. There's those types of things that I think business owners who have that acumen are going to start to do to adjust their business and get through the next couple of years. And then they'll be on that upside when the market kind of settles back into a normal thing. So just a note there.
I completely agree. And I'm hoping over the next couple of years when things start to stabilize and it kind of weeds out the people who kind of came in and bought all these trucks and overpriced trucks. Now, like everybody was telling me pre-COVID, these dump trucks, and I came in after COVID. So everybody's telling me pre-COVID, these dump trucks were like not 100 grand, they were 50 grand. Like this is what people were telling you. I guess you guys would know. Is that true? The dump trucks were drastically cheaper back then, right? Pre-COVID.
58 grand was our first
Yeah,
brand new one.
Yeah, and now post-COVID, everything. I'm hoping with the upcoming market crash that's supposed to come, hopefully things like restabilize and it flushes everybody out. And people are like, oh, maybe junk removal wasn't for me. Truck prices maybe kind of go back down because we could finally get parts from overseas. I don't know, right? But like you said, if you have not only the grit and work ethic, but business acumen, like you said, you can kind of survive, through these 2 years of people fucking flooding the industry and people like me. But the reason why people like me exist is obviously, let's not beat around the bush here. everybody wants to be a YouTuber because you get some sort of recognition. Let's not be unrealistic here. Number two, let's not beat around the bush about course sellers. Like I have one. Sonoma Strong just launched their course. Like everybody's here to try to make a little extra money, right? So from people like me sharing all this advice, it's like I truly want you to survive and actually make this business happen. But you know the cold hard stats. You probably know this. What's the most famous business stat? 90% of businesses fail within the first year. Is that something ridiculous like that? It's a crazy number, and it's sad. But we just have to wait for those 90% of people to fail sorry, my subscribers. I hope you guys succeed, but that's the cold hard reality. Like not everybody's built for this. And honestly, I'm surprised I survived that long on the truck being a finger warrior,
Well, Ted, I've got Andrew, one more question if you've got one.
Well, I know we're coming up.
We probably went over our time, guys. I'm sorry about that.
No. This is great. Good. I was just going to say, I feel like we should do a round two because I really wanted to get into your software and I want to talk more about your culture because I think that's also very interesting and I love talking about it at companies. But to kind of wrap it up, I want to give you just two easy, fun questions, I hope. The first one is, I'd mentioned you to my son. I said, we're going to be interviewing Andrew, Jedi Junk Removal. He's also one of our employees, and he's like, oh, he's a diehard Star Wars fan. So he's like, how did he come up with the name? I was like, I'm going to ask him. So there's your question. How did you do Jedi Junk Removal?
So, yeah, this is crazy. So my girl's in the back room listening to me too. So when I was 21 years old, somewhere between 21 and 24, right? Somewhere in that age bracket before Disney bought the franchise, I had this idea. Me and my ex-best friend, we're not best friends anymore. I haven't talked to him. He just went down a different life path. Him and I looked at each other and we were watching Star Wars, right? And we were just like, Jedis are badass, whatever. And we looked at each other and we're like, I forget if it was him or me, but we're like, I'm going to name my kid Jedi. And I was like, I'm going to do that too. Or we're both going to name our kids Jedi. It was funny at first. We're best friends. We're like, we're going to be the only people in the world with a kid named Jedi. Fast forward to, from 21 to 33 years old, when I had my second kid, 34 years old, my son. So when I met my lady 5 years ago or whatever now, she tells me to this day, I don't remember because I had one too many drinks on our first date, first date getting a little nervous. She says that I mentioned that, hey, if we're going to have a kid together, it's got to be named Jedi. So the first date, I was like, this has been a thing my entire life. I was like, no, when I have a son, his name is going to be Jedi. This has been in plan for 15 years. And I convinced her. And it's grown on her. She loves the name. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not a Star Wars fanboy. Do I watch every single movie and every single show and every single episode and know a decent amount of stuff? Yes. Do I know like the midichlorian level of Anakin is 20,000? Yes. But do I know everything about Star Wars? Absolutely not. I love Star Wars, but I'm not like a fanboy where a nerd fanboy could probably tell me some shit and I'd be like, yep, you know way more than me. But yeah, man, it's been in motion ever since before it sold to Disney. And I convinced her. It took probably a couple months and the name grew on her. Now she loves the name.
Yeah, that's you double dipped. You got to name your son that and your company that.
Yep. And then that's where, sorry, I forgot to answer the question. So I named my son Jedi and then I think we were going to be California Clearouts was the original name. California Clearouts was going to be the California Clearouts and Junk Removal or something like that. But then I was like, you know what? What if we did Jedi Junk Removal? And there actually is there's a Junk Jedi's, which really sucks right up the street from us. There's a Junk Jedi's. They probably totally think I ripped off their name, but I didn't know their name until I was sold on it myself. Then when I went to register the company, I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to dominate them. But that's your answer, my man.
That's awesome. A great story. Well, the last question was simply my favorite question we ask everyone on here. I try to anyways, is when you look back on your life, if you could go back and tell the young Andrew right out of high school, right out of college, the best advice that you have obtained in your old age, what is the best advice that you would give your younger self?
Oh God, you got to go all meta on me, don't you? That's okay. I want to come up with a better answer when we do a second interview, but I'll tell you the first thing that just came to mind right now because it was probably the one thing that I can think that really screwed everything up. But I don't know if the young me would have listened. But I guess if it was me coming back, I probably would have listened. So in that sense, and it's going to be your most generic answer ever, but it's honestly patience and delaying gratification. Alex Hormozy says it time and time again. There is three things. There's three. I don't know if I remember the three things. Tom Bilyeu says this. There's three things that make somebody successful. It's your overbearing belief that you're going to succeed. So part ego. The second is your constant insecurity. So you think you're not good enough. And then, so you're always, it can be better. Like I can do better. But there's also the part of you that thinks you're the best. There's the second contradicting part where you think you're going to be, where you're not good enough. So it drives you, your natural insecurity. And then the third, which holds back most people, is delayed gratification. So I would say the biggest thing, I have these two massively. I think I'm the shit, and then half the time, and that's probably a lot of people, but half the time I'm like, what is it called, imposter syndrome, or whichever one, I forget which.
Yeah.
But the third one I would tell young Andrew is, dude, just chill the fuck out, be patient, don't blow your fucking money. Who cares? Who cares if you don't get this girl? Like, just be patient, because patience is definitely one of the things I struggle with the most. I want it now. As I'm getting older, I'm getting better at that. But back then, man, as soon as I got all that money, I was just like, I got to show off with the Bentley. I need people to see me that I have a Bentley. I need people to see how cool I am leaning against my Bentley in front of the club. I need to go get a Lamborghini because it's just like so fucking retarded. And you see Gen Z doing it now too. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's such a simple answer, but it's the truth.
Let me ask this, Andrew, as a wrap up question, specific to the junk removal industry. If there's one thing you could put your finger on of like, hey, any junk removal company can figure this out, this would be a total game changer. What would that be? Any thoughts?
Any junk removal company.
Because we're all doing the same stuff. We're all picking up junk. We've all got websites that say, hey, book online, call us, text us, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
what are folks do? What would you do differently, or what are you doing differently to stand out from the rest?
If you see my $1 million presentation that I told you guys about, I say that I have a slide dedicated to, we're all doing the same thing. We're uniformed, we're insured, we have awesome customer service. What truly separates us now? We're all the same. Like, we're all kind of going after the same thing. There's nothing special, honestly, that you can truly do in this business. But I honestly think if you're going to survive in this game, I think that besides all the hard work and, getting out there and trying to get leads and all that stuff and really putting yourself out there, in-person sales and whatever, blah, 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 all that hard work. If there's one thing that's really, truly going to separate you from the rest and keep you alive in this business, is you need to master, and this might not be for everybody, because not everybody, but I would say a majority of junk removal companies want more business, is mastering. And this, I have so many ideas. We could say this for another call, but I know how I can double my call volume from Google Ads and double my conversion. It hit me the other day. I was like, why don't I do this? It'll just take a lot of fucking setup and a lot of multiple landing pages. But if they can master Google Ads, if they truly want to survive in this business, because I'm assuming most people don't just have an influx of customers just flying at their fucking doorstep, right? I feel like that's the most difficult thing for people, is where to get leads. And if you could learn, like, take a Google Ads course, learn how to build out landing pages, learn out how to, track conversions, and start with a small daily budget and do landing pages for each individual keyword, and do like have a shed demo landing page, have a hot tub demo landing page, have a standard junk removal, make 100 different landing pages for 10 different ad groups, and really dial in and master Google Ads. that'll change the game for you. Because the reason why I mentioned that is because you asked, like, what's the one thing? And honestly, getting leads is the hardest thing in this business, consistent leads. So you have a guaranteed 50 grand a month. The only way to truly do that is unfortunately paid advertising, my man.
Yeah.
Maybe with, I don't know how you guys are doing, but maybe 6 years in business, you've kind of built up a foundation, where you probably have some more repeats and a lot of referrals. But yeah, I would say buckle down, spend 2 weeks fucking mastering Google Ads, buy a course, download a course, and really start running ads and figure out how to do that, because ads are tough. Google ads
I agree
are expensive,
completely.
and you can really screw up. But I do want to say something, guys. I do want to say something. I'll ask you something, then tell you something, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Totally.
So, did you guys see Alex Hermosi's live event when he went live and did his book launch? Do you know who Alex Hermosi is?
I do.
Okay. Did you watch the live event where he like did his book launch? And did you get to the part? And if not, it's okay. I'll just kind of tell you why in a second. Where he dropped his book, and then he dropped a course, and everybody thought he was going to charge 5 grand, 10 grand. And did you see that part?
No.
Dude, it was the most epic marketing thing of all time. If you go watch his live event, go to that clip where he says, like, I'm not going to, it has this, and everybody was all excited for his business course. I haven't watched it yet, but it looks phenomenal. And he's like, it's not going to be 10 grand. It's not going to be 5. It's not going to be, everybody was trying to guess the price. And because Alex Hermosi's never sold anything. And this course looked phenomenal. It looked like a $10,000 business course. Like, no way he would give it away for free. He does this like 15-second pause. It's free. And fucking the chat room loses their shit, right? Just 500,000 live viewers, and everybody, I started crying in the chat. I started tearing up. Everybody on live, it was a whole bunch of like people watching in the background. You could see their faces on screens, and he was standing on stage, and everybody was crying, bawling their eyes out. It was epic. And he did this massive drop, right? Just shocked everybody and gave it away for free. So I'm doing a live event in the next, I think February or March, and it's going to be the biggest event. And I'm going to be doing something very big. I'm going to be, it's going to be an event for, junk removal. And of course, my software guys, obviously I'm not going to beat around the bush, but I am dropping something not software related that's going to just disrupt and fuck, in a good way, fuck up the junk removal industry in a good way, like really inspire people, because I'm going to be giving away something that's just going to change the game, to help people in the junk removal community. So I don't have exact dates yet, but I'd love to be on your podcast again when I do this live event, because I'm going to be dropping some awesome knowledge and some gifts, and I'm going to be hosting after the live event. I want to try to get 1,000 to 2,000 live people watching. I'm going to go podcast to podcast to podcast to podcast, promote the event. And then I'm going to host a party here in Los Angeles. I've got like 1,500 people in my live Discord channel, and there's already like 10 to 20 people in LA who want to meet up with me and do like a meetup. So after the live event, I'm going to host a really cool LA party, and it'll be super cool and fun. So
that's awesome.
I'd like for you guys to have me on again when we get closer, and flying out might be a little extreme, but it'd be cool. Be there virtually, definitely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Just let us know. As long as it's not during the kids' bedtime, we're good.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, we appreciate
it'll be like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, we appreciate you jumping on. This has been gold, obviously, for us. The audience. Hopefully you're listening and taking some notes, because between junk removal business operators, I think this is a lot of valuable stuff. So thank you again for joining, Ted.
Cool. Yeah.
Anything else?
We love what you're doing, Andrew. Thanks for coming on. We look forward to round 2.
Cool. Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Davis. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
We'll see you
later. Bye.